Thank you for attending this event of the Sustainable Development Goals Investment Fair. Today, we are gathered to discuss bankable investment opportunities in transport and logistics that will contribute significantly to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals in Ecuador and Colombia. These projects were selected because of their future contribution to the SDG goals and their investment opportunities. Today, speaking on the panel, you will meet His Excellency Mr. Pablo Ceballos, Secretary of Public-Private Investments of Ecuador, Ms. Karen Schutt, Director of Investments for ProColombia, and Mr. Jonathan Bernal, Vice President of Structuring at the National Infrastructure Agency of Colombia. My name is David Schmigelski. I'm an Executive Director and Senior Lead Investment Banker at Wells Fargo. I lead our sustainable finance structuring practice, and I focus my coverage efforts on diversified industrials, energy, and the infrastructure ecosystem. With that, I'd like to cede the floor to Secretary Ceballos, who will begin the investment presentation for Ecuador. Secretary Ceballos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to participate in this roundtable to discuss Ecuador's innovative approach to infrastructure development through public-private partnerships. My name is Pablo Ceballos, and I serve as the Public-Private Investment Secretary for Ecuador. I'm thrilled to share with you our vision for pathways to progress that emphasizes people-focused road infrastructure and sustainable development. Let's keep in mind on the significant milestones that Ecuador has achieved recently. On December 20, 2023, the Economic Efficiency and Employment Generation Law was enacted. Additionally, the Energy Efficiency Law was passed on January 11, 2024. Both laws intend to facilitate private investment, furthering our commitment to sustainable development. Ecuador has strengthened its international ties through free trade agreements with the European Union, China, Costa Rica, among others, including negotiations with Canada. Ecuador's presence at PDAC 2024 in Toronto marked a significant milestone with the signing of 6 investment protection agreements for sustainable mining projects, totaling $4.8 billion. These achievements underscore Ecuador's commitment to fostering a favorable environment for investment and economic growth. Now, let's point out our new 3P legal framework based on international best practice. New 3P legal framework in Ecuador modernizes regulations with a strong emphasis on project bankability and transparency, laying a solid foundation for successful partnerships between the public and private sectors. This approach not only stimulates economic growth, but also ensures efficient project execution and accountability. By incorporating provisions for environmental sustainability, fiscal affordability, and clear roles, this framework sets a gold standard for infrastructure development. One of the key initiatives within this framework is the Manta Quevedo Road Infrastructure Project. Manta Quevedo is a brownfield project with an investment of $177.3 million in CapEx expenditure and $300 in OpEx expenditure. We are committed to maximizing the impact of the budget spent over the 30-year project's life cycle. covering 189 kilometers and serving a population of over 1 million individuals across Manabí, Guayas, and Los Ríos provinces. It is not just a project, it's a lifeline for communities, businesses, and families. Our timeline is ambitious, yet meticulously planned. We have already started pre-feasibility studies funded by the World Bank. Over the coming months, we will analyze sustainability and fiscal risk assessments, followed by feasibility studies in collaboration with the International Finance Corporation, IFC. By February 2025, we aim to be ready for tender, marking a significant milestone in our journey towards a brighter future. Violence and drug trafficking seriously threaten these provinces. The national government is firmly committed to attacking this problem by implementing projects with a social background towards the protection and strengthening the productive development of these areas. This initiative is not just about building roads. It is about creating opportunities and improving Ecuadorians' life quality. The project aims to generate over 9,900 job positions, significantly reduce the annual mortality rate on the road, and contribute to environmental sustainability by reducing carbon dioxide emissions. By enhancing connectivity and trade, the project is set to drive sustainable economic development in the region, with estimated annual savings of $7.7 million travel time. Similarly, the PIFO Y de Baeza project represents another milestone in Ecuador's infrastructure development journey. With a CapEx expenditure of $56.6 million and an OpEx expenditure of $170 million, the project will provide services that positively impact the lives of those who rely on this route, covering 80.6 kilometers and serving a population of over 2.9 million individuals in the Napo Pichincha region. This project plays a vital role in connecting communities and facilitating economic growth. Our timeline follows a structured approach, starting with pre-feasibility studies funded by the World Bank. Over the following months, sustainability and fiscal risk assessments will be conducted, followed by feasibility studies in collaboration also with the IFC. By February 2025, we aim to be ready for tender, marking a significant step forward in our mission to enhance transportation infrastructure. Ecuador's economy has depended heavily on oil and gas throughout its recent history, which is why the route was originally designed to connect Quito, the capital city, with the country's oil-producing areas. But currently, the tourism and commercial sectors have experienced significant growth in the highlands and Amazon region of Ecuador, which entails the need for road infrastructure that guarantees public safety, facilitates cargo transportation and logistics, and strengthens commercial and tourist activities in these zones. Ecuador's commitment to aligning its infrastructure projects with the Sustainable Development Goals is evident in initiatives like the PIFO Y de Baeza project. This project aims to create over 4,500 job positions, reduce the annual mortality rate on the road, and significantly cut down carbon dioxide emission. by focusing on enhancing connectivity, trade, and sustainable economic development, Ecuador is not only investing in infrastructure, but also in the well-being and prosperity of its people. It's essential to emphasize the critical role of sustainable infrastructure development in achieving long-term economic growth and social progress. Ecuador's innovative 3P approach demonstrates our commitment to building pathways to progress that prioritize job creation, environmental sustainability, and connectivity. Investing in Ecuador's 3P projects is not only an investment in financial returns, but also a brighter and more sustainable future for our nation. I invite you to join us in this journey towards progress and prosperity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretary Ceballos. And in case you didn't hear, on your end, there was a round of applause in the room for two very exciting opportunities which you presented. Moving right along in our agenda, I'd like to introduce Ms. Karen Schutt, Director of Investments for ProColombia, as well as on the line, Mr. Jonathan Bernal, Vice President of Structuring for the National Infrastructure Agency of Colombia, to give a presentation on a portfolio of projects to the audience here. Ms. Karen, the floor is yours.
Hello. Okay, I think I'm going to use not the main stage, but the floor, because it's going to be difficult for me to keep watching the screen. Okay, so first of all, my name is Karen Schutt. I'm the Foreign Direct Investment Director for the Colombian Investment Trade Bureau, which is ProColombia. So we would like you to present about, our country, Colombia. Colombia is a country that is highly committed in terms of sustainable development goals and also environmental specific topics. We are committed to be Colombia as a powerhouse of life. So in this regards, and before going our logistics and infrastructure projects and naming our title of our presentation, I would like to say that Colombia has sent strong signals regarding sustainable development goals. We are one of the first countries in Latin America which has incorporated in its national development plan the sustainable development goals. We also have a climate action law, which was presented and enacted in COP27 in Glasgow 2 years ago. And we have many contributions in terms of environment, and such as having 30% of our areas protected, also trying to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, and reducing 51% of our emissions by the year 2030. So having that context, well, and besides that, Felipe also talked about the green taxonomy that we have, which is one of the first one in the Western Hemisphere. So I would like to say that Colombia is a country of regions. It's a country that is embedded and committed into a transition regarding to mind the gap and the inequalities that our urban and municipalities have in terms of the regions by enhancing logistics and infrastructure. So if we can have the other slide, please. Oh, okay. They told me there is I think I'm going to use this. Okay, so as you see here, and I would like to show the map of Colombia, you can see that in the concentrated areas, which are in these areas, you have lots of infrastructure, such as airports, airports, roads, and fluvial portuary. So if you see the Amazonian region, the Pacific coast, the Caribbean coast, and the And the East Coast, we lack lots of opportunity in terms of infrastructure. And that's the reason we are here for, because we need to mind the gap in terms of social inequality. And one of the ways for striving and minding this gap is having, let's say, not saying civil or engineering infrastructure, but having social infrastructure. So as you can see here, and I would like to go here, infrastructure frame and intermodal network. 90% of our rural network in terms of roads, which are these ones that you see here, they are in poor condition. 58 municipalities, they lack road connection, even though the rivers are navigable, and that means that you can have lots of opportunity, for example, for green business. We have over here around in Colombia, like around 4,000 green business that have able to have 40,000 employees. So we need to spur all of the biogenetics and biological business that can be produced here by having infrastructure that will enable these communities that so they can bring to the globalized arena all of their products and services. 50% of the network, as I said before, they have minor navigation. 90% of the river transportation points have a precarious infrastructure. We lack lots of fluvial ports infrastructure. 64% of the rail of the network is inactive. We just only have some, and as you can see here, the pink one line, we only have 20% of our railways, and they are used for the transportation of coal. So we're gonna be focusing on projects in which we could have more railways in order to reduce their emissions. 40% of our emissions, even though Colombia is one of the countries that emits the lowest emission, 40% of our emissions came from the transportation sector. So investing in this sector could help us move forward to achieve our goals. And we have an active network, although that active network, we are looking for investments for the long-term operation. Okay, so here is our National Development Plan. As I said before, we consider it as a social infrastructure for minding the gaps in terms of inequalities. And we have infrastructure for connectivity and a strategic infrastructure for being competitive and to spur green businesses and to spur green employees. So today we are betting decisively on intermodality, and we put it in a big orange quote because we are also sustainable in terms of planning our infrastructure. Sustainable mobility also implies that you have a well-done planning, not getting lots of roads with cars, but we also plan an intermodality about having railroads, railways, about having ports, and having also navigable rivers that can that we can move forward. So we are a greener, more connected, and competitive country in the regional convergence. Very quick, fast, we strive from a first-generation roads, and with our public-private partnership scheme, which is being a very innovative, financial, I could say collaborative scheme, have enabled us to increase our amounts of investments in terms of roads, but we are still having lack of investments, which is the pink one, in terms of railways and ports. So what are we looking for? We are looking for $32,000 million, okay, $32 billion in terms of the intermodal transportation, as I say so, which are all of these. I think I'm running out of time, so I'll go very quick, fast. So here we have our compliance with the SDGs in terms of the intermodal infrastructure. The PP projects in Colombia, they have a clear understanding of the territory. That is something very important. I mean, we cannot keep, building roads and having various methods of transportation without recognizing which are the needs of our territories and of our communities. Also, and that is something very important I would like to highlight, in each of our actions or concessions, we have principles regarding climate change adaptation. And that is a principle that must be considered. Instead of having climate change mitigation, We have climate change adaptation in the terms of reference, in the phase of planning, and also in the execution part. And finally, as I said, for incorporation of the green guidelines, community engagement and investment in social projects with the communities. So there is kind of a holistic view of the intermodal big roadmap transportation that we have. Very clearly, we think that with just only the concessions or public-private partnership, we can have 12 billion investments and equal spurt direct and indirect jobs, like around 2 million jobs or more. Project portfolio, I will go very fast because I think that if you want to go deeper into all of these projects, you can go to it. So we have this one, which is kind of the first one that we have in terms of railway network. It is interconnecting the center of Colombia, in which the 40% of the GDP is concentrated in the center of Colombia. So if you move to the North Coast, here we have somebody from the North Coast, so she knows all the lackage of our communities in terms of connectivity. So here you see that we need this railroad, the one in orange, in order to have more progress at the North Coast, where we have many, many children and kids, lacking of hunger because they don't have access, to food because they are in the desert, like in the Guajira, or they don't have even access to public services. Here are our main railway projects, which are the one, as I said, La Dorada Chiriguaná, which is connecting the center of the country to the north region. Then we have the Pacific Train, which is another important project. It is $4,500 million, and it is connecting the North Pacific coast also to the center of Colombia. And there are other kind of corridors for connecting the main cities with the suburban areas. Here we have the portfolio of railway projects. So here is the timeline. As I said, the first one is the one that is going to be awarded soonly by January of 2025. We have the other one, as I told you, the Pacific Coast to the center of the country, and the suburban areas of the main city, Bogota. So most of them have been completion of pre-feasibility and feasibility, and we have divided it in different phases. So it is kind of a sandbox, which is an important thing. We are trying to see if there is any adjustments we need to make into the regulation or into the legal framework in order that it will be suitable for private investment to get into these projects. Airport mode, I will go quick fast. Cartagena, I think everybody looks after Cartagena. The project has been already awarded, but we are thinking into another, that this is a brownfield project. We're looking into a greenfield project, which will be the new port airport of Cartagena, Bayunca. And the idea is to increase the number of passengers into 17 million passengers. And it will bring lots of, a lot of economic and social impact to the Caribbean region. We also have San Andres Island, which is supposed to be a smart green island, but it is mostly nurtured by fossil fuels. So the idea is that this airport will be sustainable in terms of energy efficiency and renewable energies. And so we are also publishing that by the 12th of July. Well, and these are the airports. So now I'll go to the fluvial modes, river connection. As I said, so having these rivers being navigable, it means also peace. I don't know if you haven't seen the movie Sounds of Silence, and which is a movie that shows that at the Amazonian region and the Orinoquia region, there is a lot of not illegal groups. So having these communities the opportunity for their crops and for their agriculture to be coming to the center of Colombia and to other parts of the region could help them to change the way of production and having legal earnings. So we have all of these fluvial ports, which are also going to be awarded. And well, that's kind of a big portfolio of road projects. I think that this will take me lots of time going over the CapEx, the OpEx of each of these projects. So I'll just leave it there. And this is something regarding the public-private partnership. I mean, it's important to say that the government of Colombia has warranty in its budget, because if it's a public-private partnership, the resources coming from the public, from the public side, they have already been in the budget and set up for them to be constructed. Finally, just to say that according to IDB's Infrascope index of publication, it says that Colombia has one of the best ranks in Latin America, besides Chile and Brazil, in terms of the compliance indicators for managing the public-private partnership projects, which is something very important for investment, because you have the warranty that it has the guidelines regarding SDGs, regarding climate change, community involvement, and besides that, that the resources of the public side are there for future fiscal terms. So that's our presentation. And if you want to have more information about the CapEx and OpEx projects, they're over there. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that presentation, Ms. Schut. This point of the session will now relate to some feedback, some Q&A from the room, and some closing remarks. So I certainly want to thank you for that presentation and an exciting portfolio of projects, a multimodal portfolio of projects, which is both a challenge in the transportation and logistics space, but also an immense opportunity to reverberate impacts, as you said, even for peace within a nation and across nations. So I hope we can get into that a bit shortly. A few questions for Secretary Ceballos, if we have him on the line. Secretary, you spoke about the people-centric nature of the road projects that you are pursuing, specifically targeting violence, drug trafficking, and mortality on those roadways. Could you elaborate a little bit more on what you meant by people-centric approach in the infrastructure, and how we could kind of estimate some of that impact that will be made?
Thank you very much for the question. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate my colleagues of Colombia for that impressive pipeline of projects. In the case of the project Manta-Quevedo, Manta and Quevedo are both cities that are heavily affected by the violence of the drug trafficking. So the government is working on policies and projects that enhance the opportunities for economic development in those communities. And also, we are looking to create the conditions for the development of new activities. Manta is a city connected with the port that carries mainly fisheries cargo. So one of the goals is to connect Manta with Quevedo, that it's a center of agricultural production. So the people's approach tries to look not only on connectivity, which is strategic like the port, but to think on developing economic activities around the projects. We are measuring the impact in with different standards. One of them is of course, the reduction of emissions of carbon dioxide, the creation of jobs, but also to look to opportunities for in different activities. For example, one of the opportunities that the reconstruction of this road will create is to connect the agricultural zone of Quevedo with the port of Manta in order to promote exportation of agricultural products that are the principal income of the people of Quevedo and the surrounding cities like Palme. So the infrastructure projects based on this people first approach includes thinking about the opportunities that the project creates, besides thinking only on connecting a strategic infrastructure with populations or with other roads or parts of the road of the highway state infrastructure.
Excellent. That's very helpful insight, Your Excellency. And Ms. Schut, you mentioned something similar in your presentation around the social focus of these projects. And I think one thing that struck me on a personal note, because my father was a merchant marine, and it was the one job that kind of got him out of communist Poland, because rivers transverse borders. And so that's very interesting to hear about the navigability of the rivers in Colombia being a source for peace. So if you could speak a little bit more to that, that'd be very interesting.
Okay, as I said before, most 60%, almost like around 60% of our rivers are not, they're not navigable. And the idea is that if you see also, if you see that the main cities, all of them give the face to the river, because the river has been also a source of transportation, a source of social development. So in Colombia, we have been giving the back to the river, not the front to the river. So, so the idea is to try to, we have analyzed different ways about getting into the social and economic arena. And we found out that the only transportation method that we can use is the river. And it implies developing our agriculture sector. It also implies our merchant sector, as you say so. Civilizations have developed according to by the rivers' navigability. Their agricultural business, their merchant business, as you say so. And it is amazing that due to the green businesses that have raised in that particular region I show on the map, which is the Amazonian region, and also to the Orinoquia region. And it is not only a scheme of transportation that implies only Colombia. No, it also implies Ecuador, Iquitos, that area of the Amazonian, also the Brazilian region. So, so it is a way of exporting transportation that inclusively will connect different communities of different neighbors, as Ecuador, as I said, as Peru, and as Brazil. So the idea is that, the rivers are localized in that particular area of the Amazonian region and the Orinoquian region, and the great agricultural potential that is there could be replaced due to specifically, there is a lot of drug trafficking in that area. I could tell, a lot of drug trafficking in that area. So the idea is that instead of using the river as a drug trafficking route or highway, is to be a productive and agricultural route and merchandising route.
Fascinating. And just given that we have about 5 minutes, I want to offer an opportunity for any questions in the room. So if anyone's got a question prepared, would welcome it. Otherwise, we can move on to the closing remarks. Going once. Yes.
Have you thought of other strategies to fight drug trafficking? Because I'm from Brazil, and coincidentally enough, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Coincidentally enough, 2 weeks ago, I was visiting the port of Santos, And I saw a whole bunch of, how do you call those? Mergulhadores? ¿Cómo se dice? Divers. And I asked, what's happening here? And basically they said they're going under the ships to see if they don't have drugs hidden, on the ship crew. So, I mean, can you imagine? I had no idea this was even a possibility. So, I mean, yes, when you're trying to fight drugs, but also in a sense, you're creating maybe a new possibility for drug trafficking that didn't exist. So you have to actually also think of creating new job opportunities for the population, for them to actually switch. There's a switching cost. I mean, as they're making money with drugs, why would they stop? So you really have to help provide a new solution. You just can't tell them, stop.
Yep.
They won't, because they live off of this for many years and generations. So there has to be some inclusive program. And also, there's a lot of cooperation between Brazil, Peru, and Ecuador, and all the countries in the drug trafficking. I've heard there's, at the higher level, police cooperation, et cetera. So you have to also explore these avenues, I would say.
And I would also like to say that after also analyzing, the productivity economy of these regions at the Amazonian and Araucanian region, we have also discovered that there is a high potential for ecological and for nature tourism. If you see, there are paradises in that area. And we have seen that many people, as long as they have kind of, these organized and secure tours, we can also develop ecological tourism in that area. And tourism is a way of discovering different cultures, Brazilian culture, Equatorian region, Peruvian region. So we have also envisaged that the rivers, indeed, we are launching a new touristic project by the river by a American company, AMA Waterways. And it is going for the route of the 100 Years of Solitude, our Nobel Prize. So they are going to do throughout that river route, out of the touristic route of that novel. So we are trying to reinvent ourselves. And one way of reinventing ourselves is about using the river as a new productivity mechanism and way. So we're using it for tourism, to recreate our Nobel Prize tourism tour. We are trying to replace trying to all of the crops of these regions to be placed in the arena by, as I said, so replacing illegal crops.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for your answer, and congratulations on all your efforts. I wish you the best of luck. Thanks.
Definitely, I need it. But I need investment banks that can go to our country. And there was a question that somebody asked me on my Colombian team, and they say, how can we go so these multilateral organizations and banks, besides going to the main capital of the cities, can also go to the regions, to the tier 2 or to the territories? Because, and that is something that we really lack, and investment banks, and I think that part of the United Nations role is that trying to teach these territories how to structure feasible projects. I think that everybody wants to win. I think that everybody has a will to help and to finance projects. But we are lacking, all of these emerging countries, a lot of knowledge in order to structure feasible projects that can have a return, an impact return. Definitely, there is a return that is needed, but definitely we need to structure feasible projects. So we need technology, we need to have knowledge, and that is the best way, the contribution, trying to teach these territories how to structure feasible projects.
And I think you and I had the conversation last night. There's also a need for collaboration in everything that you've said there, and a multi-layered approach of facilitating collaboration amongst investment banks as well as local banks, and fostering relationships where there's a mobilization and enablement for local banks to provide financing with the support of large institutions, as we have already in the development finance system. So a lot to do there, and quite a bit, I think, is needed to create a collaborative infrastructure for that. And thanks for the remarks earlier as well. As we look to wrap up, I had longer remarks to summarize, but I think I'd like to focus, we can spend some time speaking about challenges, and I think most of those are known in this room. Obviously, the SDG Investment Gap has been discussed extensively. I'll just highlight that in the actual report of the Interagency Task Force, the logistics and transportation component is not insignificant of that $4 trillion annually. It's a gap in the tune of about $500 billion annually, and that's just for that infrastructure piece itself, not to even think of how dependent, for example, food and ag is on transportation, which is about another third of $1 trillion annually, and then you have to think about the implications that go beyond it. And so there are many challenges that can be discussed, the pace of scaling of new fuels, even down to the habits of travel and leisure of consumers. But I'd like to highlight some of the positives, and I think we touched on them in these presentations today, which is that this industry has several levers to decarbonize, in particular, that reverberate across economies that rely increasingly and ever more so on the movement of goods and people to further development, digitalization and automation of logistics, and transportation not only will enhance efficiency and reduce emissions, but as the task force highlights in their report, it can stand to play a central role in expanding access to supply chains and markets, boosting industrial transformation of economies. And if this is done responsibly, trade can lead to positive environmental outcomes affecting the composition of goods and even enabling the development and diffusion of environmental technologies. The last thing I'll highlight is that report has a little case study on the impact of, on the gender dimension of e-commerce in trade, showing how access to logistics, transportation, payment services, and other tools helps lower barriers to market entry and supports women to overcome mobility constraints and reduce gender-based discrimination. That's just one social dimension. We heard extremely fascinating ones around drug trafficking, around mortality on roadways, and around domestic peace in the cases presented here today, not in the least to say very strong economic investment cases as well. So thank you to the panelists, thank you to the member states presenting these, and I encourage those in the room to reach out with further questions on the underlying investment theses. Thank you.
Thank you.